God, Phil Foden and his finger guns. I see that in my nightmares, Davo.
Oh, or is it a finger rifle? I think it's a finger rifle.
I'm going to hopefully interview Phil soon. I've got a feeling he's going to completely and utterly just confuse and be like, no, they're chopsticks. It's for Jack Grealish at Mr. Wings. That's how we use chopsticks, like that, man.
From the Men in Blazers studios in the crap part of Bedford and the crap part of West Hollywood, California, it's the Men in Blazers video podcast presented by the GFOPs at Camarena, the world's most awarded tequila.
We back like the US women's national team, baby. Oh, how you doing, David?
Yeah, nothing to see here. I'm doing okay, Rog. Big weekend.
Draw, bite your arm off for one of those, baby.
Oh, I love the draw.
Oh, take it in the fact. It's been a long time. It's been a long time, as we will discuss. We've got a lot of football to break down. Oh, Manchester United fans, we are here for you with an enormous cuddle. But quick one up top before we dive in. Davo, I know you spend a lot of your time why do we like football? We like the football for the US Soccer Federation shenanigans, right? Isn't that why we watch?
Mostly. And they have given us plenty of entertainment over the years, we should say. Thank you to everyone involved in US soccer.
In a Friday night news dump, they announced that the format of the 2023-24 US Open Cup, that vaunted men's tournament, that goes from sea to shining sea, will only involve 8 of a possible 26 MLS teams. Stay with me here. Of the 10 remaining MLS clubs, 9 will have what is called their next pro teams, which essentially means their reserve or youth development string. It's kind of very American to come up with a cool name for that, Davo. Essentially, what does it mean for you, dear casual fan? It means no Lionel Messi or Inter Miami, who reached the final last season. And I know this is all complicated. And I know US soccer have I think self-admittedly let this jewel of US soccer history fade and become far more atrophied than it should be, without commercial heft, without real broadcast partners, has become kind of a Grey Gardens of football tournaments. I think $300,000 is on offer to the winners. And you kind of compare that to the shiny new tournaments MLS has unleashed. There seems to be a new one, they seem to each have a baby new tournaments every single bloody year, like the Leagues Cup and all that stuff, which they utterly control. They own the IP to. But Davo, this US Open Cup, it's rooted in our history, right? It goes all the way back to 1913. And my friend Jim Curtin of the Philadelphia Union, the manager there, he was one of many to voice his hope that this year's disaster was just a blip on the tournament format and it will return to its traditional and proud ways in seasons to come. David, don't you think it's so bloody crucial that both parties work out some kind of self-interest here and not let this alternate way of telling history really on the men's side, the oldest sporting competition in the United States, fall prey to battles between US soccer and MLS, essentially?
Yeah, look, there seem to be 4 key words in the title of this tournament: United States, Open,
Check.
And Cup. Now, I assume that they are still allowing the United States to the extent that these states are still united, Rog. I assume there is still a cup on offer at the end, in addition to the $300,000. And if I remember rightly, this is a magnificent trophy. It's a beautiful...
We've held it in our hands.
Yeah, it's beautiful, that cup. But
do you remember we once did the draw for the semi-final live on stage in Portland, and Sunil Gulati was offended that we were allowed to touch the hot balls.
I think he was offended. He was offended by everything. But one of the key words within the US Open Cup is open. And open is that it is available to all, and everybody gets into it who has a ranking high enough to go and get into it. When you start manipulating, just as you would, whether it's the US Open or the French Open or the Australian Open or any of the Open, once you start manipulating it, that's a dangerous road, my friend. It's a dangerous road. But they only got rid of one word. At the same time, they could have said, hey, we're going to invite all the teams from Latin America into it. We're going to not have a cup anymore. I guess they could have done that, but taking out the openness of it does seem to be a bit of a problem.
To better days ahead for all. This tournament should be, it really should be the jewel of the American sporting calendar. Really, when I look at it, I think it could be a commercial wonder that makes money and broadcast sense for all. So here's in that spirit. Keep the Open Cup weird, Davo, to better days ahead for all.
Absolutely. Okay, before we get to the Premier League football, a quick word about everything coming up at Men in Blazers World Headquarters this week. A massive week, Rog, as European football returns. So does European Nights with Rory Smith, with that pod dropping Tuesday morning as usual. And it's a double shot of Rory this week, as he'll also join you for a European Do It Live Wednesday in the wake of Real Madrid, RB Leipzig, and Manchester City versus Copenhagen. It goes down at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube Live. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. Rog, I also understand that you are sitting down with two Premier League heroes this week.
Oh, that is right, Davo. We are fortunate enough. Last week we spoke to Bukayo Saka. What a joyful human being he really is, and the responses to that have been proper magic, to be candid. This week we are sitting down with Marcus Rashford.
Wow.
What a time to have him
Perfect
come back
timing.
onto our show. Also, crazy enough to return into my loving arms is Liverpool's Andy Robertson, coming up a little later in the week. I think that will be released this Friday. If you've got questions for either of those blokes, just send us an email at meninblazers@gmail.com. We do value your insights, your creativity, your words. Yeah, by the way, your US men's national team nicknames have overfloweth this week. I think we're closing that competition this week. We have had so many magical suggestions, but look for both of them, Marcus and Andy Robbo, coming up soon on our YouTube channel. Subscribe now.
Can't wait to hear the results of that competition. Can't also wait to hear what the shaded area of the Venn diagram in the psychology between Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, and Andy Robertson is going to be.
God, they just both tolerate a ball bloke for very short bursts of
It could be
time.
that could be it. That could be it. Okay, the only way to make sure you don't miss all of this amazing content is to subscribe to all of our socials. Really excited to hear from both of those gents, Rog. Okay, I think it's time for our first toast of the pod.
God, I want to raise my third first Michelob Ultra of the day, which I did actually, I will confess, open a little early. I've gone a little early today, but I'm raising it to the US women who did rebound from a fairly horrific, shocking Dos Acero loss to Mexico on home turf in the W Gold Cup group stage by quite crisply overcoming Linda Caicedo and Colombia. 3-0 last night in Los Angeles. A well-executed press was too much for the Colombians to live by, especially as they were kind of more focused on the shithousery than the football, if we're being honest. But it was a really feisty, you don't know where I'm from, dog kind of game, and the US did not back down at all. Impressive performances, should we say, from Alex Morgan in an unfamiliar role, pulling the strings in a deeper lying position. Sam Coffey in the midfield. Honest truth is, Alyssa Nair in her 100th cap, in goal, pulled off two first half, quite impressively wrist strong saves, without which it could have been a very different reality. But the US march on to Wednesday's semi final against Canada, who will prove a sterner test. Winner never has to listen to Nickelback again in their lives. Oh, Sam Lewis doing great reaction before the game, post the game on the Women's Game YouTube. We are so lucky to ride with her, taping a ton of stuff with her around this game midweek. Bring it on.
Wonderful. Okay, to the Premier League football, Rog. Manchester City 3, Manchester United 1. The Lancashire equivalent of Dillon Panthers versus the East Dillon Lions sees a couple of local lads steal the show. It started in just the 8th minute when Withenshawe's own Marcus Rashford unleashed a 30-yard blast that put the defending champs on notice. But after a first half in which they had the better of the ball but were profligate in front of goal, City hit back, and the spotlight shifted from Withenshawe, 5 miles northeast, to Stockport, whose favourite son, Phil Foden, led a comeback for the ages. He tallied a brace. Even Erling Haaland's iOS update finished in time to get on the score sheet with a third. A massive result in the context of the title race and in the state of these two clubs.
God, Phil Foden and his finger guns. I see that in my nightmares, Davo. This
Or is it a
190.
finger rifle? I think it's a finger rifle. It could be finger guns. It could be a finger rifle. But
I'm going
this
to
ought to be debated on our other pod.
interview Phil soon. I've got a feeling he's going to completely and utterly just confused and be like, no, they're chopsticks. It's for Jack Grealish at Mr. Wings. That's how we use chopsticks, like that, man.
Yeah.
Under 92nd, Manchester derby, loaded with intrigue before the game. Off-field, power games, golfs, perches, true title chases. Manchester City entered on their, in name at least, not really form, but in name on their kind of early March inevitable run of 14 of their past 15 games ending in City wins. Haaland just come off midweek, in which he scored 5 goals in one game. KDB littered 4 assists in that process. Manchester United, in contrast, just been lumped by Fulham, consumed by injuries. No Højlund, no Luke Shaw, and more. And the Palace intrigue of their own internal power battle. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the new controlling owner, talking publicly about knocking City off their perch. In fact, trying to do so by building a model so closely similar to City's that they're actually taking their senior staff in order to do so. Crazy names like Zidane being tabloid rumoured as possible future managers. All of that strain, all of that frenzy, getting to Ten Hag to such an extent that, in the words of Barney Renee in The Guardian, the United manager was left midweek talking about, quote, TikTok videos with all the easy command of your uncle who teaches Latin trying to understand grime music. It's been quite chaotic watching poor Ten Hag the past 10 days, David.
Yeah. I mean, the comparisons between him and Pep, I mean, there are not two balls more unlike each other on the entire planet Earth, Rog.
You think? Me and Statham. Is that not
Yeah, fair
similar
enough.
ball golf?
Yeah, it is a ball golf, but I would say that Ten Hag and Pep have less in common. There's less shaded area in their Venn diagram than you and Statham.
Funny enough, I did get a yellow belt in Shotokan karate. Studied it for 18 months, so there is probably a close-up. I'm probably closer, even closer. By the way, I do love this. Statisticians listening, can you please confirm there is a stat called the ball gap? It would have a small b and a large G, like XG, and I'm way into that.
Yeah, the BG.
But, oh, God, I'm really getting there to my whole Shotokan karate memory. All I want to do is stand up and rip off a few key eyes. But before kickoff, Chris Sutton on the British broadcast was asked, what will the score be? And he stony-faced predicted a 6-1 City win. I honestly wondered, actually asked my United supporting family, a lot of them in United, a City, a lot of them are United. And I asked them if they, I think I used the word, would you bite my arm off before kickoff if I offered you a 3-0 loss? And my step-uncle Joe, he said, no! In a disgusted voice, as if he was offended by the very question. He then got back to me and said, I would take 3-1 though, as if it was all a negotiation.
What a good weekend for a step Uncle Joe.
Dubs for Uncle Joe. I hope he's on Prize Picks. But City just set a furious tempo from the off, as if intending to incinerate United with their white-hot heat. John Stones, KDB, Haaland, Doku, just flinging themselves at that creaking United backline with the energy I've only seen before when Ronaldo grabs his crotch region in the presence of audible Messi chants. And despite their ferocious run of results, City are late, have always been open to that ball, played over the top in behind the counter to the counter. See the Chelsea game. And on 8 minutes, United's first real clenched fist, route one, long clearance from Onana, like a proton torpedo, sent down the air shaft of a Death Star. Fernandez onto it. Diaz closed him down, but he just rolled it to an onrushing Marcus Rashford. It had to be him, right, Davo? After this week in which he'd written publicly in the Players' Tribune about who I really am, confronting his legion of tabloid critics who he believes are scapegoating in. The England built him up for his advocacy work during COVID, where he spoke so beautifully on behalf of children who were suffering from poverty, and now they're knocking him down. But he raced onto that ball. David, that shot he took, XG 0.02, and he just anger struck it, didn't he?
Well, there are a number of miracles about it, Rog, and you're so right about the British press. I mean, one thing the British press is superb at doing is knocking someone off a pedestal. It's almost inevitable. It's an inevitable fall. But Fernandes got onto it, which involved some real running. He then made such a smart pass into the space. And the amount of space that Rashford ran into, it's almost as though the City players were like, wait a minute, we're meant to be running around in little shapes, like at the other end of the field, like passing to each other and creating opportunity after opportunity. The idea of tracking back at that point seemed beyond them. Rashford ran into so much space, but then ran onto it at speed and hit it from so far out. It was just, I mean, as good as Rashford is, I didn't for one moment think as he was running up to that ball that he was going to go and put it top bins.
Yeah, I want to ask him actually. Like, when you hit a ball like that, Ring Rooney once told me that whenever you pull your foot back from a ridiculous place on the field, it does pass your mind. It's going to kind of shank Rosie, and everyone's just going to go, "Hey!" But it didn't seem like that ever entered his mind. It was just like it was like a tracer bullet more than it was a shot. I mean, just all of that frustration, that confusion, that tearing anger. He just seemed to unleash it on the ball, striking it as if it was the howling head of his enemies. It rose. It was heat-seeking. Honestly, we've always said on this show, a goal should count double when it goes in off the bar. Edison, stunned. I mean, just a storming strike, just carved of wonder. Get ready to watch that goal in every Manchester derby montage for the next 20 years. And off he charged, Davo. That ecstatic release, that joy, that relief, that frustration, that anger all just pouring out. He's still only 26-year-old. I mean, he'd written midweek about his critics on British television. He asked them to, quote, have a bit more humanity. He talked about how when they write about him, it's got to be about my body language, questioning my morals, speculating about my family and my football future. There's a tone in it that you, quote, don't get with all footballers. Let's just leave it at that. I mean, echoes of Raheem Sterling talking about how black players in the Premier League are just judged implicitly, horrifically, by completely different standards. And he ended up saying, if you back me, good. If you doubt me, even better. David, what must he have felt as he charged off deliriously, Manchester-born lad, scoring for his team, pointing at his head again in his signature style, when it all seemed to have disintegrated for him this season, just to have that moment with the world watching?
And also to do it, at a rival stadium. That's not a home goal. That would have had its own glory, but to do that at the Etihad was quite spectacular. Look, he's a thoughtful person. He's a sensitive person, and I mean that in the best sense of it. That's a compliment. And I think his points made in the press were really well made. And as you said, also he's a 26-year-old. You know, that's the remarkable thing about professional athletes and brilliant athletes is their ability to rise above the noise and to take inspiration from the people who doubt them. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it scars. Yes, it it sort of leaves a sort of a bad taste in his mouth. But the fact that he can walk through there and run onto that ball with no doubt and deliver that blow as if from one of Phil Foden's chopsticks, that was just remarkable.
A stat then was flung onto the television screen with almost like Chekhov's gun that 13 times in the last 27 games, 13 out of 27, this City team have gone behind, but they'd only lost three. And they did take the punch on the chin. Johnny Evans stepping up at the wrong time to let Phil Foden in one-on-one. Onana, who'd said pre-game that he's overcome, quote, mental demons this season, just bailed his team out with a big paw, a
Mm.
big stop, continuously came out to claim everything. Did feel like there's a narrative of just this heroic United performance against the odds game. Helter-skelter, chances made, chances not taken at both ends. Marcus Rashford again, ball over the top, goal at his mercy, got his shot all wrong, fell over. Reminder that football lets your spirit soar 1 second, brings you crashing back down to earth the next. For that, watch Haaland for most of this game, uncharacteristically heading over a snap opportunity with a goal at his mercy. And sort of feel like shades of the 9 shots he missed in the frustrating Chelsea game. Onana down smartly to smother from Rodri. Just the rearguard stuff from United was admirable, blocking off the passing channels just last minute foot to tap the ball away from harm's way. Bodies given up, big blocks by Mainu. United gave up the very idea of attacking. Varane immense. Johnny Evans, old enough to be Tim Ream's dad. I mean, God, Johnny Evans, Davo, starting for Manchester United in 2024. I mean, can anyone else beat AARP's Athlete of the Year, or is it just we give him the award now?
No, I think he deserves it right now. I mean, you mentioned the header, the one he missed with his foot on the open goal. I couldn't believe that Haaland missed that. But the whole time it looked like, I don't know if you get delivered these ads or they just come to me, Rog, but I get delivered these ads on social and online sometimes of these sort of like animated, simulated wars with lots of little animated characters from one army, just sort of completely overmatching and overrunning another army, and then eventually they just disappear. I honestly felt that the red shirts were going to literally disappear from the ground in this match. That Man City was so all around them, so the movement was so incredible. It was almost more intense Pep than we've ever seen an intense Pep team. So it just felt to me inevitable, which is why Man United had to get another goal to stand a chance of keeping up that record of leading at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that Haaland miss that you just mentioned. It was a Foden nod across the area. For some reason, Haaland decided to raise his foot
Yeah.
to tap it home, skewed it over like some kind of Norwegian Beto in disguise. Um, in that moment, Pep span away, held his temples. I thought flames would come out of his fingers. Um, just at the agony of that man, that human in that second, knowing that he's going to have to waste valuable seconds at half time, turning Haaland off again and on again to try and get him working.
The
But
reboot always
yeah, that's what
works.
you do.
Always
That's what you do.
works.
That's what you do with the printer. Just turn it on again and off again. Opta revelled in Man City firing 18 shots in that first half. The domination was remarkable. The most United have faced first half of a game since I think 2008, was it? Pep on the sideline. There was a shot of him again spinning away right before half time, total agony, while screaming at
Yeah.
a fourth official while smiling, which made him 10 times look more sociopathic. Just getting into the fourth official's face, doing his weird noodle hands. David, I'm never sure whether, and you can enlighten me here, whether Pep is belittling or complaining to the fourth official, or he suddenly decided to seize this moment to tell the official about the best food I've ever eaten.
No, I think he's definitely confusing the fourth official. That's the one thing which I think we can be absolutely sure of. What exactly he was saying in that moment? At some point, he seemed to sort of make a ball motion, a sphere motion with his hands, but maybe that wasn't a ball. Maybe that was an orb. Maybe he was talking about with the best team on planet Earth. Maybe it was something else. Maybe he was referring to his head in some way, or to
Yeah,
Jason Statham's head.
he's saying bull golf. The bull golf is
Yeah.
enormous.
But,
I mean,
I sort of felt that what he was asking for is how are we not being awarded goals for our domination? It's like we should be 17-1 up at this point.
God, we're going to be so humiliated when lit readers get into it and tell us he was saying alpaca cashmere. You must try it. The rain, the sweat, it just rolls right off. But I did wonder how, I mean, many of you are listening, how you Liverpool fans were feeling at halftime after 45 minutes cheering for Manchester United. This Manchester United, the enemy of mine enemy is Bruno Fernandes or something like that. United came out, started to time waste almost immediately in the second half. Rashford barely got possession as the outball. And the moment he did, it ended up a goal, but in the opposite way he ever would have dreamt of. On the break, Rashford slipped through the other side of Walker briefly. Walker did seem to hand check him. Do we agree? Although, part of me is like, Rashford at high speed, hand checked, it would have thrown him off kilter, a bit like any of you are potters when you're working with clay on a wheel. A tiny touch can just send the plant pot that you're working on off into contorted, buckling, surreal shapes. Or are you like, consensus is Rashford went down far too easily?
I mean, it's one of those ones, it could have been given both ways, but it wasn't given. And I think the most important thing is that it wasn't given. And so why should we end up taking away the goal that was so beautiful at the other end? And or it doesn't even devalue the beauty of that goal at the other end. And so it wasn't given. You just got to move on. There's nothing you can do about it.
And City did choose that moment. I actually said to my son, I was watching it with Bear, my second son, I was like, oh my God, they are going to go down the other end and score in this moment. They did strike. Rodri pulled a pass to Foden, who cut across Lindelof. We've got to say about Foden, his form, so stunning. Watching Foden strike a ball, I do believe it's almost an honour as a spectator to watch this man do that. Um, in this moment, just the City players call, I think Kyle Walker said this post game, they called Foden the sniper. That technique just grooved through years of practice. Johnny Evans was ahead of him, couldn't move his 87-year-old bones to block the ferocity of the strike. It was strike so sweet. You could really imagine Liam and Noel Gallagher just texting each other, being like, all right, we've got to reunite for this. We've got to write a love song about Phil bloody Foden and his finger guns. David, it was almost like a counter, a riposte to Rashford's goal. It was like watching robots learn from humans and bettering them, David.
Yeah, I mean, the form of these young England players this season across the Premier League and across Europe, it is quite staggering to watch. And it's almost like they're competing against each other for minutes at this point. Um, I would argue that no offensive England player has improved more this season than Phil Foden, and I think it's a runaway. It's his improvement, his the number of minutes that Pep is trusting to give him, the speed he has, but also the speed of thought, the clinicality, the technique, the execution. He hurts you in so many ways, and in
The
this game,
ruthlessness.
yeah, the ruthlessness, just wow. This goal was just something really special. As good as Rashford's goal was, there was something for me even more technical and beautiful about this goal.
Pep said after the game about Foden, who is still, remember, just 23 years old. He said he can win games by himself. That is when you become a world class player.
Huh.
He's the player of the season. Um, I actually believe he's not wrong in that. Johnny Evans then had to limp off with old age. 19-year-old Willie Kambwala from Congo replaced him. United even more just holding on. Attacking intent just went full on, disappearing like Kate Middleton. I think they had 0.00 XG in the second half,
Wow.
which in a Manchester derby is bewildering and astonishing. City
We
just
tied them,
surging.
Rog. You and I tied them this in the second half with our XG.
Bite your arm off for 0.0 XG. I mean, just trusting, delighting. I think they seem like a creature that could hear their opponent, their prey, the sinews snapping, the agonized heartbeat, just the energy, the will to live, evaporating from United. You knew a winner was coming. When it did, no surprise it was Foden again. Fed through by KDB. He exchanged passes with Alvarez. Casemiro chasing him as if running through mist and treacle. And just from an angle, struck it so low, so true through Onana. The ball
Yeah.
rumbled on. I was like, why did I fall for it, David? Why did I believe that a result could be anything but City winning?
Yeah, in slow motion, I thought, wow, maybe Onana could have done better. But when you watch it in regular speed, he just did, as he said, hit it so low, hit it so hard at that point. Superb strike across the goalie. And 2-1.
Haaland then scored after Amrabat coughed the ball up lacklusterly, fed into the Nordic giant who did his low open body arc into the corner finish, charged away, flung himself on the floor, humped it a little. Why not? Pep grabbed his assistant, pointed up at the heavens, or I like to think at an imaginary Julia Roberts. See, Julia, see! We will never know. But these City players, Davo, 45 minutes earlier, they've been looking down the barrel of a gun. Pep, floundering at the fourth official, talking about Kashmir alpaca, Haaland, the terrible misses. That could have been the headlines, but instead, no. City triumph, City joy. Pep actually walking around. I mean, this was more than just a win. I mean, Pep was giving off his, and I think this is all intentional. Him post match, nothing is just pure emotion. All of it is gambit. All of it ahead of the Liverpool game next weekend is just him setting himself up, giving off vibes. It's all political. He gave off vibes like, we have won the title in this day. I'm not even thinking about Liverpool, despite the fact that he's in a deeply competitive three-horse race. This day, 3-1, even Haaland scored, 6 goal in 5 Manchester derbies. Ian Foden hate United so very much. But Dave, I'm going to ask you again. At the final whistle, I did scratch my head again. I was kind of like gobsmacked. How did we fall for? How did United cheat us? Put it that way, into emotionally investing in believing um, that this result could be one of shock and surprise and a United win, because they did lull us into that and then just killed over.
I mean, I would be lying to you though, Rog, if I said that I ever believed that United were going to win this game. Or actually, I'd be lying if I ever thought United were going to get a point out of this game, even after they scored. When they failed to score a second, I always believed that City were going to come back in. And I'm not Rod Stradamus. I don't have these moments. But I just didn't watching the match. I never believed it was going to happen for United. City were just so superior in every single place, and this isn't a knock on United. I thought United came out and threw it at them in that first half. I thought they played some very good organized football. I think they showed amazing shape, and I think they had some chances to go and score a second. But once they didn't get that second, City just had way too much, and City could have scored six. City could have scored six on this day.
Yeah. By the way, that was what was in the last 10 minutes. You did expect Chris Sutton's prediction to come true, and it would not have been surprising. United players looked like they knew that. At the end, looked somber, ashen faced as they paraded around the field. Outshot 27 shots to 3. I think they had 26.7% possession. The Etihad Stadium rang out to "You're effing crap." I'm paraphrasing in their faces. 11 Premier League defeats now on the season for United. It's astonishing. Same number as Bournemouth, one more than Chelsea. And if you're looking at Ten Hag and how Sir Jim Ratcliffe will evaluate his manager, look at the substitutes in this one. Anthony, Amrabat seem to actually undermine his team rather than bolster them. City tearing you apart again. First loss for United after leading at half-time in over a decade. Led for over half the game, ending with their fans leaving before the final whistle. The perch so much higher than Ratcliffe imagined when he talked his cocky talk of knocking them off inside 3 years. Really a golfing class. 6 points off Tottenham in 5th. I wonder what TikTok he's going to flail at this week, David. Maybe some Cobby Lane will piss him off.
Yeah, and the job for him is you look at those starting lineups and you look at the bench. There isn't a single United player who replaces a City player in the starting lineup. There isn't really anyone on the bench that would replace any of those City players on the bench. And this isn't just true of United, it's true of almost every team in the Premier League except for Arsenal and Liverpool, maybe a Tottenham player here and there. But it's the gulf in class of the players at Eric Ten Hag's disposal, they're just not there for him.
God, 21 points City gleaned from losing positions. Anfield now beckoning next week.
Wow.
Rashford delivered a wonder goal, but then United tried to just hang on, and City were relentless in their pursuit. Foden relentless, Haaland, just immense joy I think they'll be singing as they head to Anfield on Sunday. What a title race, Dave. City, it needs to be said, for all their dominance, for all the points they've gleaned since the beginning of December and that last loss against Aston Villa. They have not beaten a top 5 team yet this season. And they played in this run really middling fair. And now they have Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal, Aston Villa in 4 of their next 5 to come. This is the title race. It's the title race of the ages.
Oh, can't wait. We get a seat to watch all of it. We're so fortunate, so blessed. Okay. Nottingham Forest 0, Liverpool 1. We're going to fast forward through the first 99 minutes of this one and get right to the most dramatic ending to a Liverpool game in at least, 6 days, with the game meandering towards a goalless draw and Liverpool in desperate need of a winner. Uruguayan wildcard Darwin Núñez rose up and flicked home a delish Alexis McAllister ball to claim a vital 3 points for purple-clad Liverpool as Jurgen's callous German mitts maintain their grip on the top spot in the Premier League table.
God, the Klopp RuPaul continues in this last dance game. Both sides needed points very, very badly for very, very different reasons. Liverpool deep into their 1877 Klopp for Kids era. 1877 Autos for die Kinder. Jurgen unleashing freshman talent after freshman talent. They're like, it does remind me, I haven't seen anything like this since the Fab Five at Michigan, Davo. In this one, it was 19-year-old Bobby Clark who made his first Premier League start for Liverpool. The old guard, though, starting to come back. Canate, Robbo, McAllister, Luis Diaz all return to the starting lineup. Núñez and Soboslai back on the bench. By the way, one note on this Klopp kid thing. We all see the wonder. We do. The youngsters, Klopp's belief in them, belief that they can do it, which, Cody Gakpo was talking midweek about how it all comes from Klopp. But there is an element to the story that's not discussed as much, which is Klopp did the injuries, Dave. I mean, he did. It's his style of football in this incessant calendar. They've just come off 4 games in 11 days. That style of of chaotic football has ground the team down. The games, a relentless nature, the amount of injuries in training they've had. And this Liverpool season of wonder is really about, can they keep those legs, some legs, fresh enough to get them over the line?
His style necessitates kids, is what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's very fair. It's
And
very accurate.
injuries and hamstring
Yeah,
injuries in
yeah.
in the number that happen in training. And you saw it, the freshness wholly absent for much of this game against a defensively sturdy Forest. Admirable, really brilliant bants by manager Papa Smurf Nuno, unleashing Divock Origi against Liverpool for the first time since he stopped tormenting me at Anfield in 2022. He was lively early. Yes, we have to say this. No Gio Reyna again. Minor knock, not even on the bench. Sigh. One real talking point of the game for the first hour was the amount of chanting by the Nottingham Forest fans about poverty, unemployment, essentially how slummy and poverty-ridden Liverpool is. There's a chant a lot of the opposing fans sing for Everton and Liverpool about sign on to the tune of "You'll Never Walk Alone." Really a dig at signing on for unemployment benefits. When poverty, by the way, all over the Midlands and all over the north of England is equally as bereft at the moment. Miguel Delaney tweeted the unemployment rate in Nottingham is 5.9% compared to 5.7% in Liverpool. The issue of austerity, which is gripping England, I obviously don't say this as competition, but it's grim that a universal social problem has become a source of chanting. It is amazing, David.
Yeah, 5.7% unemployment. You'll never sing that. I mean, that sort of is where we're going. It's ridiculous. I mean, a lot of this started as, West Ham in the 1970s with the sign on, and the burning of cash when teams from Liverpool came down, which was always remarkable. And West Ham, the East London was not exactly the wealthiest part of Britain, certainly not the wealthiest part of the capital at that point either. So, yeah, I mean, it's cultural. I think that it's difficult when you start looking for accuracy from football chants. It's just, let's just look for accuracy from our uh, broadsheet football writers. I think that would be one thing. Let's start there before we get to the stands and the terraces.
We are getting to the level of political discourse where I expect someone to say 5.7% unemployment. Bite your arm off for that.
I'll bite your arm off for that.
Bite your arm
Yeah.
off for 5.7%. 60 minutes, Darwin Núñez came in. Actually, more chanting, took the field to chants of "You're just a shit, Andy Carroll." I think in the movies they call that foreshadowing. Nottingham Forest fans, we all knew what was going to happen next, didn't we? As soon as they sang it, but the game stayed goalless. Felt like going into 90th minute, big point for Forest in the course of their season. Within touching distance for them, Klopp started to lose his mind on the sideline, but into the 90th, the board went out for 8 added minutes, which did feel, I think, a Forest fan texted me and said, a mate of mine said, "Oh, we're in play until Liverpool score territory." How little she knew. Forest fans then had another reason to see referee Paul Tierney. According to IFAB laws, made a huge mistake. Gave Liverpool goalkeeper Kelleher the ball to restart play. When they just drop it at the goalkeeper's feet. After the game had been stopped for a collision, crucially between Kelleher and his Liverpool teammate Canate. When Hudson-Odoi, Forest, had been in possession, it should, by the rules of the game, be a Forest unchallenged drop ball. Forest should have got the ball back. Liverpool later argued that Tierney made the same legal error in the first half, but without the same high stakes context. I mean that was a terrible mistake there. We've got to say it was a mistake in law, right? Not just in decision making. That's what makes that really,
It's
really
also,
hard to
in
take.
terms of process, you have a stoppage to the game. There is so much time to get that call right. There are people there's a fourth official in your ear, the other two officials, the assistants in your ear. No doubt the people at, Bletchley Park or whatever it is, like in your ear. You've got everybody talking to you for you to get that right. And the ball should have gone to Forest. And I thought it was shocking. Absolutely a shockingly poor decision.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you also got Julia Roberts in your ear
Yeah.
and stay kind of. Why
Yeah.
can't we all just? You know what? That's the way you fix it. Get every fan who's watching in the referees here. That'll sort it out immediately. That'll be fair. But that'd be if every team could have a delegate, a fan that they put in the ear of the referee throughout the game. That'd be. I'd want to listen to that. And the other
Seriously,
thing,
Rog, it's quite boring, but this is a checklist decision. This is literally before
yeah,
you restart, you
yeah.
literally run through a checklist of what are the situation here? Who was in possession of that ball? Oh, it was Forest. We better give the ball back to Forest. It's so easy to get right. This is what I don't
Yeah, but
understand.
and also your point is this is not like a handball decision, which is always subjective. This is an objective rule
Yeah.
that was not followed. It was a blow and law, really hard to stomach for, as we'll discuss, for Forest up and down the organisation. The other thing was that we were 36 seconds over the initial 8 minutes when all of this went down that was to come. That happens often, to be fair. But a Liverpool corner cleared by Forest, Callum Hudson-Odoi and a Wanye could have honestly just hacked it away, but tried to play it out their own box on the break. They lost control to possibly the worst person on the Liverpool team to hand the ball to in moments like that, Alexis McAllister, aka the Brighton player that Chelsea did not pay 100 million for, but should have done. So really the rare player who almost becomes calmer under pressure. And he clipped an instinctively exquisite, lethal ball straight into the Forest nerve centre. Darwin Nunez, aka, yes, him, shit Andy Carroll, falling away over another Liverpool reject, Nico Williams, deft flick, snap of the neck, cunning clinicality, improvisational wonder, made the ball drop just inside the post. David, I'm old enough to remember when Darwin Nunez was seen as a meme lord. But this was an extremely subtle, difficult finish of a tender lover conjured in just in an immense hour of need. It was
Yeah.
magnificent.
Yeah, a minute of need, and situationally a magnificent goal. He scores so many different types of goals, Darwin Nunez. But the fact that he can, show the guile to get free at that moment and you know, get up and meet that ball first and glance it into the side of the net. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic goal. And shouldn't take anything away from Liverpool. The game is still running. Yes, they were given the ball but they found the way to win. And Liverpool, this is the mentality monsters. They'll find a way to punish you.
Another weekend, another insane late show celebration, this time for Darwin actually on the field of play. Watching him celebrate, you see Virgil van Dijk in the celebrations pull Darwin aside and point to all the Liverpool fans. The away fans are losing their minds. Seem to tell Darwin that he did this, that he made them just so effervescent. And that's who he's playing for. And again, I watched on in Marvel. I've got to say this as an Evertonian for whom football is like a weekly poke in the eye. Just, just one of the most remarkable things. Let me find the right words for this about Liverpool. Witnessing them in this era, in this moment, in which football, we talk about it, we laugh about it, but it's true. Football's ever more about money. Winning can feel so bloody mechanical. You know, where winning, we talked about Manchester City, the winning feels inevitable, or places like PSG where they've spent all that money, brought in all the massive players, have a president who's self-dealing on every UEFA board, just broking power to win. Um, winning can feel like it's just completely about regional power, geopolitical power, financial power, football power. Um, Watching Liverpool this past 8 days, it's a reminder football can still be quite joyous. Winning can still be hilarious. It can be human. It can be fun again. I mean, I was watching it. It was like, it felt like a single scoop of vanilla day for Liverpool fans. And then Darwin just dialed up the rocky road with rainbow sprinkles. I'll say it again. Life as a Liverpool fan, which half my family are, Dave, it must be, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, Dave. It must be unreal.
Yeah, I mean, these are superb moments, and it's where football. It was a day that Liverpool weren't very good, frankly, for 98.5 minutes of this game. Certainly the better team, but they weren't at. It wasn't the level that we've expected from this club. But the heart, and it's just pure heart. It's pure heart, married with obviously some brilliant technique at the end that gets them that goal. And my only asterisk I'll put on it is this was the 27th game of the Premier League season. There's 11 more to go. And you can peak a little bit too early. And at a certain point, all of this adrenaline, all of this emotion, there tends to be that Newtonian law to every action is an equal and opposite reaction. They can't keep on summoning these wins and these moments just from pure emotion and mentality and from heart. At a certain point, surely, I could be wrong, but surely it's got to catch up with them.
You need to win from another organ, kidney or a
Yeah,
lung on
maybe
occasion.
something, maybe a leg.
An appendix.
Yeah,
I've had
from
them take it
something.
out, sir. By the way, I say it was fun, slightly less fun for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
An incredible shot from Darwin Núñez losing his mind. The camera went to Nuno, the Wolves manager, just stunned, somber, head down, just zen, pose of suppressed shock and anger, demoralised. His assistant coach, Stephen Reed, got a red for his protest. Forest owner, Evangelos Marinakis, the Greek shipping, slightly dodgy magnate, stormed the field as if it was the Greek league, where that kind of thing's common. If you
Yeah.
Google Greek
And
owner,
encouraged.
Greek. Google this Greek owner Stormfield gun. It was not Evangelist on that day, but you get a sense of where that comes from. And I hope it doesn't become acceptable behaviour in the Premier League. But Forest then did something arguably worse. They sent out Mark Clattenburg. Long-term listeners will remember Clatts, former superstar. How would you say? Superstar referee. Now returned after spending time in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, China reffing. He also is the kind of slightly heelish ref, I've been told, on the British version of Gladiators. I crap you not. But he's now a refereeing consultant to Nottingham Forest. And they sent him out up front to be Forest spokesperson in this moment. In the mix zone, which is normally where the players speak to the media, there was Clatts again, talking about the mistaken application of the rules. He said the owner's quite upset because they fought and he's invested a lot of money. We want to see results. And he feels another decision has gone against the football club. Quite rightly, he's upset. Davo, what do you make of it all? This Mark Clattenburg new role in football. Essentially, there's the Greek owner's fluffer.
I think every club will end up doing it.
You do?
Every club will find somebody. There'll be
Everton's will be Paul Tierney. I don't know the rules. But here I am.
Paul
Ask me
Tierney.
anything.
Tierney. You're imagining that Everton are going to put someone who's actually worked as a ref in the Premier League. It could be anyone, Rog. It could be Beto by the end of the season.
I think Everton will be ref. We need a ref. Let's get Dennis Leary. Wasn't he in that movie, The Ref?
Yeah,
he must do it all.
Yeah. I don't know that they've got the Leary money.
777 will get us Leary. No, they've definitely got enough money for Leary.
I mean, it seems shocking, but nothing surprises me in football. And referees basically being for sale in order to go and be the spokespeople for their teams at the end of games. I mean, yeah.
See, I think it's bonkers. I understand the idea of specialist coaches, throwing coaches, set piece coaches, but to have a referee spokesperson. What's next, David? Will teams hire like broadcasting consultants? Like, let's get one of the two Robbies on payroll to counter Gary Neville's broadside attack.
Both Robbies.
Amazing. Yes. Couldn't afford us. Bite your arm off for a Robbie.
Yeah.
Everton will get Kyle Martino.
Yeah.
We'll have Dennis Leary and Kyle Martino. It'll be amazing. God bless Kyle. By the way, I'm going to say this all seriousness. Football teams should invest their money in more traditional ways. Everton are going to get Arlo White, aren't we? Just hit me.
Oh, okay.
That's our future. But anyway, invest your money in more traditional ways. That's what I'm asking you. Like hiring good no. Why would you want football? Good lawyers to fight the police deduction.
Sorry, that's very true. Very true.
All that matters. We're going to cap Liverpool very quickly. First win for them at Forest in the Premier League year. I think their first win in 40 years in Nottingham. Huh. Another late winner from a substitute. 21 goals, 22 assists from Klopp changes this season, which is insane. No team has more. 1 point clear at the top of the table. 44th, 90th minute winning goal Liverpool has scored in Premier League. 12 more than any other side, 18 of those under Jurgen Klopp. I mean, we talk about mentality monsters, but it is bloody real. It's more than a nickname. To me, it's the greatest intangible of the Klopp era. I'm going to ask Andy Robertson about it because I'm fascinated. They brought in these neuroscientists, Dave, a Neuro 11, which sounds like the other 10 Neuros were already taken on Twitter, but they've had these sessions on remaining calm during the eye of the storm. And I'm fascinated to know more about this late show. Another one in time added on of wonder. Jurgen Klopp, left to laugh last. Said about Forrest singing about Darwin Núñez being a shit Andy Carroll. He said, honestly, I would not sing a song like that. I would never try to wind Darwin up.
Wow.
Godspeed. Roll on next weekend.
Everton get 777, a bunch of ambulance chasing lawyers, allegedly, and
Yeah.
Liverpool get Neuro 11, a bunch of neuroscientists,
Yeah,
literally.
fair enough. Bite your arm off. Get us Dennis Leary and all they want. You'll be laughing on the other side of your face, lads.
Okay, Tottenham 3, Palace 1. Papa Ange's push for a Champions League spot continues with a vital comeback win against the Eagles. After a scoreless first half, it was the visitors who went ahead courtesy of an Eberechi Eze's 25-yard free kick taken with all the casualness of a penalty. But Spurs stormed back thanks to an equaliser from a man whose shot map looks like a Jackson Pollock painting, Timo Werner, a Romero header, and a Sonny insurance strike. Spurs in 5th place. 5 points of Aston Villa.
Spurs have won the previous 8 home games against Palace by a combined score of, was it like 17 goals to 1?
Yeah.
But Richarlison out for a couple of weeks with a knee injury, really labouring in attack, real lack of tempo. Sonny frustrated, hit one off the post. Timo Werner blew the best chance in classic Timo style, a half-field one-on-one, just blown at the last as he kind of ran out of ideas by the time he got to the keeper and just kind of fired his 12th goalless shot straight at the man. Really in agony for a gent who looked like in that moment that he had the engine of a Ferrari, but no steering wheel. So when Palace, who picked their moments to counter with aplomb, took the lead through a stunning Eze free kick, won by him, thrashed home by him, just a true poem. Dave, were you not looking at, because I know I was, at new Palace manager Oliver Glasner as if he was the best Austrian since Christoph Waltz? I mean, it was just like, neue Manager springt ja, Palace
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah. Palace and playing well. And, matching Spurs, position for position across the field. I mean, a really, really good performance by them. Certainly until, the final quarter of the match.
Yeah, Spurs looked like they were about to stir a second successive Premier League defeat in the face. Very few ideas against a Palace low block. That effervescent football of the first phase of the season, really a tormenting memory and in a time of real fear. Palace, though, have conceded 19 goals in the last 15 minutes of games this season. It's remarkable. And it was a late wilt of true catastrophic proportion here. 2 goals in 3 minutes turned the game. The first, like watching water turn into wine. Timo Werner scored a big boy goal. I'm not making this up. His first for Spurs. Yes, it was an open goal from 7 yards out, fed by Brennan Johnson. Timo did try to miss. He couldn't miss. I'm so happy for him. Hope it gives him the confidence to believe and do more. And then a ball lobbed into Romero, dunking on Joe Ward. A late Sonny charge too and lethal finish. Suddenly, after 70 minutes of underwhelming existential fear and I will say a large degree of self-loathing at Tottenham Stadium, Club Ange erupted. Score felt great, even though the performance was not. Spurs, you know, the vibes are immense. Must be hard for their fans' hearts. Only side to recover 18 points from losing positions in this campaign. Proper cardiac kids. Big Ange, no doubt, will look at the first 70 minutes with fury. Last 11 with an element of relief. Spurs remain in touching distance of Villa in 4th, 5 points back, a game in hand. And who do they play next weekend in the stealth massive Premier League game of that match day, Davo? They're playing Tom Hanks mob. Bring it on.
Wow, amazing. Eze will always have Eze's free kick, though. That was a marvelous moment. Not in Tottenham set piece defending, but for Palace, it was a great moment. Luton 2, Aston Villa 3. And Ollie Watkins' first half brace had Villa cruising early at the Kenny, but 'twas only a flesh wound for the Hatters, who struck twice in the second half in a span of 6 minutes to level the score. It's a great game, actually. The first in the 66th minute via Tommy Chong's third cousin twice removed, Tahith Chong, quickly followed by a Carlton Morris equaliser off an Alfie Doughty laser set piece. But it was Everton sleeper agent Lucas Digne who played Hatters heartbreaker, heading home the winner for Villa in the 89th minute. Both teams stand pat. Villa in 5th, Luton in that final relegation place in 18th.
And Ollie Watkins double 7 goals in his last 6 games. He said, it's an amazing story. I kind of want to pinch myself all the time. I'm just enjoying it. I love his approach to life, but his goals were not the winners. Credit Luton. They lost the game. ground their way back into it and lost it again. Crowd at the Kenny, losing their minds after 2 Luton set-piece goals gave them hope. But in this relegation zone, where there's now a constant dread and dead-leggedness kicking in across all teams, hope only leads to shattered hope. The RB, a poem of cross-arced and dangerous, and they're to head it in. First goal since November 2022. Oh, beautiful Lucas Digne. Still doing it for Everton. GFOP at TYSNC tweeted, Kazoo blood is thicker than water. Up the villains. 4 consecutive defeats in the league now for Luton. Dave, a massive run of games ahead against Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, and Forest. If I wasn't an Everton fan, I would say I admire so
Yeah.
much their pluck and I wish them well. But I am,
Yeah.
so I won't.
Yeah, it's hard not to root for Luton unless you're an Everton fan this season. Okay, Brentford 2, Chelsea 2, after a really bright first half in which Nico Jackson put Chelsea ahead 1-0. They capitulated, allowing a pair of B's goals as far apart on aesthetic spectrum as is possible, but proof, well, bald spectrum pretty close, but proof they all count. The first, a scrapper poked home by Mads Roslev, and the second, an act of levitation, a swiveling overhead kick from Johan Visa. But even after what looked like an epic pants crapping, Chelsea were able to find an equaliser via an 83rd minute Axel Disasi header. Chelsea keep treading water in 11th. We're very good at treading water, Rog. The Bees, meanwhile, stop a 3-game losing skid.
Oh, 6 short days after losing at Wembley in agony, Chelsea again struggling in humiliating fashion. 2-1 down, 2 relegation fight in Brentford. Blue £1 billion bottle job 2. Electric Boogaloo. The pain really accentuated by the brilliance of that second Brentford strike by Wisa. Just Google Wisa bicycle, left foot flung at the ball, right foot striking it. Oh, just exclamation point wonder. Q, Chelsea away fans, really the hardcore who travel everywhere with the team, unleashing, quote, lewd chants against both their manager Pochettino and Todd Burley. How dare they? At Alan Smith tweeted, Chelsea fans are working through a full album of fume, chants of Jose Mourinho and Roman Abramovich's names mixed with Bowley, you're a C word, and F off Mauricio. Oh, and a bit of Bob Marley sprinkled in. What do you make of it, David?
Yeah, you say the Chelsea hardcore travelling fans. They've travelled all of 4 miles down the Westway to get to Brentford. It's not a difficult journey. Um, I mean, look, I think Chelsea, since the Carabao Cup, we, struggled to a 3-2 win against Leeds in the FA Cup 5th round. And then this game, I mean, this is sort of the level that Chelsea are at. And I imagine it would be the same level if Mourinho was there. It's a very similar points tally to last season under Graham Potter. It didn't finish as well. I think Chelsea will end up with more points at the end of the season. There have been some signs of life. This has been a better Chelsea team in 2024 than it has been previously, but that's not saying a lot. But, this is sort of our level, a 2-2 draw at a difficult club to go and play at for Chelsea, Brentford. That's sort of our level. We're
So
not an elite team.
if I'm paraphrasing what you just said, the thing that surprised you was that they sprinkled in some Bob Marley, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
That was very sophisticated for them.
I will say the idea of Chelsea fans wanting, willing Mourinho to come back again to their club is so self-destructively wonderful. I just welcome it and would
Yeah.
love it to become too. This
I
is
think it
where
would be fair to say that this is a vocal minority. I don't believe that this represents the majority of the Chelsea fan base.
but Todd Burley, if you're listening to this podcast, please make it
That is a
happen.
vocal majority,
That
what they're
would be
singing about Todd
incredible.
Burley.
That would be incredible. No. By the way, God bless Cole Palmer creating the goal, equaliser for Disasi. But the kind of goal where you say the players are still fighting for their manager.
Mhm.
Asked about the angry reaction post game, Mauricio said, "No, I'm not worried. We need to accept." Someone asked me, "Do you feel the love from the fans?" No, we need to build our relationship between the coaching staff, the coach, and the fans. I felt for Poch. He's a lovely man. Davo, it was his 52nd birthday on Saturday too.
Wow.
Will he be coaching at Chelsea Football Club when he turns 53, Davo?
Look, I think that at the end of the season, I think the points tally for Chelsea at the end of the season and the performance in the FA Cup is significant. They got a pretty kind draw, I think, in the next round against Leicester City. Um, I think that Chelsea want to be able to say there is progress since last season, and I think beating last season's points tally, which they should be on course for, even though they have a similar points tally from last year. Chelsea finished so badly at the end of last season. I think Chelsea should be in a better place. Who knows? I think they'll have a decent. They're pretty set up to play cup football. Um, their fixture list seems to be mid until the end of the season. I'd say they've
Newcastle and Arsenal next.
well, yes, but then they've got a slightly easier run. They've got a mixture of fixtures, but until the end of the season, they've played more games on the road. They've played 2 less games at home than they have on the road right now. So I think Chelsea are going to finish around 8th in this table. An 8th place finish, better than last season, a decent FA Cup run. Will that be enough to save him? Maybe. It really depends on how many more C words the fans are singing about the owners, because at a certain point, it's the owners who are far more sensitive than the managers
It
in these
is,
situations.
it is amazing. You spend £1 billion on the team and you
And you
still
get
end up being
called.
called a
Yeah,
C word.
I know. It
It's
really
life.
is. I know.
Imagine saying that on
It really
those are your
is.
last words on your deathbed. You're like, I spent £1 billion on that team.
And
They
I still
call
got
me
called a C
a
word.
C word.
I know. It's who would own a football club? Who would own a football club? Okay, Fulham 3, Brighton 0. Talking of an owner who's been called the C word, a battling that's been happening on seaside holidays for ages. Cottagers against seagulls, and in this case, the Cottagers come out on top. Fantastic performance, actually. It started with a pinpoint effort from World War I officer Harry Wilson's Wembley revolver, continued by Rodrigo Muniz's 5th goal in 5 games. Wow, he's good. And capped by enemy of refined carbohydrates everywhere, Adama Traore. Fulham in 12th place, Brighton in 9th. Marco Silva's mob win this one in some style, Roger.
Yeah, Harry Wilson opened the scoring, and I realised even bloody former Liverpool child stars are just banging them in these days. This was a romp for Fulham. There's the Brighton of our imagination, and then there's a Brighton of current reality. De Zerbi, still very coveted as a manager, left just banging his face into his hands in agony. So much of what was great has really evaporated of late for him. 19-year-old Evan Ferguson, really a symbol of the whole side's loss of form. 17 games without scoring now. Brighton actually play in the Europa League round of 16 this week against Roma. It's incredible. Brighton against Roma, just magnificent. De Zerbi there against his friend, Roma's new manager, Daniel De Rossi. The two actually spoken beautifully. They have daughters who are friends who live in London together. They actually met going to watch Roma matches at the London Roma Club, which I just love. De Rossi said, I imagine his daughter will not have a Roma scarf on when we next meet.
Wow. Okay.
Godspeed,
Newcastle
Seagulls.
3, Wolves 0. Another great performance. The Magpies turned this one into a horror show at St James's Park, pecking at Wolves with Hitchcockian zeal. The first blow came from the slick Swede Alexander Isak, heading home a Bruno Guimaraes deflection in the 14th minute like a Bjorn Borg volley at the net. Ginger Benedict Arnold, Anthony Gordon. I can't believe I have to call him Ginger Benedict Arnold now. Anthony Gordon kept the Toon party going in the 33rd minute to make it 2-0. And it was the best Tino since Martinez. Tino Livramento, another one we let go, by the way, putting the final nail in the Wolverhampton coffin with a 92nd minute finisher. Great run on that. Newcastle hopped to 8th place in the table while Wolves dropped to 10th.
Life there. Newcastle, first clean sheet, first home victory of 2024. Really attributable as much to Wolves being so bad on this day. It was like they weren't playing Wolves. It's like they were just playing like Wolf, singular. Toon, who've been leaking goals of late, played cautiously, tactically, forayed in flurries on the counter, clinically. Anthony Gordon pains me. Maybe he was right to leave. I'm starting to think he was right. Maybe
Oh,
it was us, Dave,
really?
because God, he was unplayable in this one. Just Isak's going his 11th on the season, injury blighted season 2. Livramento went dance dance revolution at the death, and after a week rightly spent praising Wolves manager Gary O'Neill, it was honestly the much maligned Eddie Howe who deserved the plaudits after this one. His Newcastle end the weekend ahead of Wolves with a European place again, close enough for them to smell it.
Yeah, fantastic performance. Burnley 0, Bournemouth 2. The Cherries travelled north to Turf Moor to take on the lowly Clarets. And it was footballing Jaden Smith, Justin Kluivert, who opened the scoring for Bournemouth, making his daddy proud with a beautiful 13th minute finish. Antoine Semenyo bookended the match for the Cherries with an 88th minute slapper to make it 2-0. Bournemouth hopped to 13th, while Vinny Company's men stay stuck in the drop with only 13 points on the season.
Booze rang out at Burnley. 11 games left. 11 points adrift from safety. 11th home defeat of the season. 11th out of 14 home games. What a miserable journey. Bereft of happy memories at all for the Clarets faithful, who've seen their team draw a blank again. Meager 13 goals scored in those 14 home games, 34 leaked. But for your Las Vegas Golden War Cherries, a first win of 2024, you can almost hear their fans out take a breath at the final whistle as they sang, "We are staying up, we are staying up." And after a season of darkness, turned to light, turned to more of a wobble, I think, than they care to admit. Honestly, it's magnificent, and I'm delighted that Bournemouth are going to be Premier League for another season.
Okay, Everton 1,
Oh.
West Ham 3. Despite missing a penalty and then taking the lead anyway, Everton collapse at home, allowing an equaliser and a pair of injury time goals. A lot of credit to the Irons and their very pert goalkeeper here. But with the Premier League handing out point deductions left and right, this was a massive opportunity missed, I would say.
God, what have we become, David? Really, honestly. We have won. This is stats. We have won more often in the courtroom than we have on the field in the last 2 months. We have not won in the Premier League since December the 16th. But we did, and we talked about it in the last pod last Monday. We grabbed those precious 4 deducted points back. Yeah, probs only so they can be taken away again, but let's not go there yet. To the match against our old dad, David Moyes. God, it was so wonderful. I love him. I'm so fond of him, his humanity. I was delighted he had the chance to bring misery to the Everton faithful once again for old time's sake. The game at the outset was about poor Beto, started in place of drop doom Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Handsome man's 20 games now without a goal. It became the Beto miss show. Have you watched Beto much, David?
A little bit. A little bit. I watched this penalty a few times, and that certainly confused me.
Well, I just love watching him. My son actually has a Beto shirt, and I just love watching him. He tries so hard to be physical in almost like a cartoonish, comical way. I also believe, I can't confirm this, but I do believe he's asked Hummel for a special jersey with collars that are twice the size of everyone else's, which doesn't inspire confidence in his decision making. But you're right, we won our first penalty of the season. Kurt Zuma moved his arm towards the ball off a Beto cross, and anyone who is A, human, and B, has watched Beto play, would not have let him anywhere near the ball to take this penalty. Honestly, it's almost negligent. I actually filmed my experience watching him take the penalty in real time, put it on Instagram. It's almost negligent to send that man to the spot. It's never a good sign when the human being about to take the penalty is absolutely crapping himself, and the goalkeeper is cocksure and utterly confident about saving it. That's always a bad sign, right, David? That convict.
Well, I mean, for one thing, the way that Beto lined up to take the penalty, he could only possibly hit it to one half of the goal. Though he took it was good for the, I mean, the keeper, I think, couldn't believe it because it was so clear that he was going to go and hit it to, you know, to the goalkeeper's left as it came, that it became easier. It became an easier job for him when it was only half the goal he had to
In
defend.
fairness, I think Beto was just in his mind. He wasn't thinking which side. I think he was just like, I kick it forward, right?
Yeah,
Forward. He
forward,
was just
forward,
trying to
not
remind
backwards, not
himself.
sideways.
Yeah.
Sideways
He's like,
acceptable.
forward,
Sideways
forward.
acceptable. Forward
He
best.
said forward, good. They told me forward's good. I mean, it was a feeble kick. GFOP and not Spencer P tweeted, I, for one, was pleasantly surprised it was on target.
Yeah.
Someone wrote on Everton Instagram, and I love this. They wrote, I see glimpses of speed in Beto, which made me laugh more than I care to admit. Beto became the 23rd different player to fail to score a Premier League penalty for Everton. Only Arsenal, 24, have had more in the Premier League history. I do wonder, Sean Dykes, if you're watching, just let our Super Silk, our lawyer, Lawrence Rabinovitz, take our penalties from now on. We can have that happen. Can you imagine, David, letting our barrister on the field in his wig?
Super silk. I love it.
Yeah, he never misses. Second half, We should let our referee consultant take our penalties. Excuse me. We're going to sub in.
What, Dennis
Who did we
Leary?
say? Yeah, we're going to sub in Dennis Leary. Take the penalties. No, we're going to sub Leary out now and put Arlo White in to take our penalties. I feel more confident, honestly. Second half, I was like, Davo, during halftime, I turned around to my kids. I was like, why do we watch this shit? It makes me miserable. It does. My second oldest son, Bear, said back, he goes, Dad, it's like I have double algebra on a Wednesday and I hate it. He goes, watching, and it struck me. I was like, oh my God, watching your favorite team with your dad every week is like double algebra. I was like, why is this our thing? Like, why did I not just decide that, lads, every Saturday, let's just all meet, we'll sit on the couch and then just once we'll punch ourselves in the down belows as a family. I mean, it's quicker.
It'll be less painful.
Yes.
Less painful.
Yes. Exactly. And then, while I was thinking about this, Garner swung over a deep, deep cross into the Kenny Loggins danger zone. Beto leapt up and with his meaty Portuguese forehead, little bit of shoulder, I realized he should have taken a penalty with his head, but that's a story for another time. Wouldn't that be amazing if he just incredible? But it went in, sort of banged off his shoulder. And then he banged his shirt, told the Everton fans he was going nowhere, knee slide, and it must have felt magnificent. And David, I turned to my son, I was like, this is why we watch. This is why we do the double algebra on a Saturday. This is why we punch ourselves in the down belows, because occasionally it feels amazing.
You're also, oh no, Beto's not leaving.
Yes,
He's staying.
Yes.
He's staying.
Yes. By the way, God, Dennis Leary taking all penos, angrily smoking a heater and talking about Irish discrimination. Make that happen, will you? 777. But anyway, then what do we have? We had something precious to lose. And it took us 360 seconds, 360. And it took 360 seconds for us to go down. All hands on the ship. James Ward-Prowse set piece onto Zuma's head. Great cross, peeled off Godfrey. Great header into the corner. 1-1. No Selly. God bless you. Should have put the game away, truth be told. We had Areola, the West Ham keeper, pulling off immense saves. Souček had a deep dig off the line. And then Everton, once they reached stoppage time, I think we kind of decided to quit, but I hadn't noticed that. 91st minute. Again, I turned to my kids and I said, honestly, I'll take a point. You know that when the game's over in your mind, you're like, you're just brushing the crumbs off your pants. You're like, I'll take a point. I just said that to Bear, crap you not. And the second I said it, Kudus drove a deep, deep cross to Thomas Souček, which he struggled to control with his chest at the far post. And then he just went F it, drilled it into the goal. Do you see this goal? Shirt off, screamer.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It meant so much to the lad.
If you gave Souček 100 times, Davo, how many times do you think he could actually do this?
The goal, not ripping the shirt off. I think that
both either.
I think maybe it's sort of 1 out of 100 for the goal, and I would say that the shirt off. I mean, and I think that he would take his shirt off 1 out of every 100 goals. This one was so extraordinary for him to score. His only natural reaction was to take the shirt off.
I mean, it's like Garnacho. Garnacho, has he scored another goal even mildly like that since the one he did against us? No. I mean, Everton aren't winning at the very death. We had a corner. You know, I posted this analysis on Instagram. I can't live it again. Just watch my James Garner, professional footballer, hit the first man. We got to take it again. Don't know why, but they let him take it again. Hit the first man again, regain control, and just decided, sod it. I'm going to just pass it to only a speeding Jared Bowen. Just tapped it to him, charged up our gut. Ditched it to Edson Alvarez. Dink, 3-1 West Ham. By the way, off expected goals, Everton 2.70, West Ham 1.73. We managed to lose 3-1. Davo, here's my conclusion. We are the most unrelenting tale of woe in the history of football. Everton Football Club. Honestly, it's like a weekly visit to the Willy Wonka chocolate experience in Glasgow. Yeah. All we do, we're designed to make kids cry. I mean, that's what we do. My friend Scott, Lifelong Blue, talk about him a lot on this show, texted me. He said the following. This is a direct quote. He said, I can see the football gods over beers on a Friday night, rubbing their hands with glee, seeing how far they can push the narrative. Last night, they were like, F it, let's finally give the poor sods a penalty. Of course, Beto will miss it. Then we'll have him actually score one off his shoulder. But F him. In injury time, a worldie from a player who never scores worldies, that'll do it. One God says, nah, that's not enough. Let's F them with 2 goals in injury time. They cackle. Oh, go on then. David, I believe that happened. Everton have underperformed expected goals more than any other side this season. We are minus 12.5. Nearest to us, Brentford and Chelsea, 5.4, minus 5.1. We're leading this a lot. We have 0 wins in 10 games. United, Bournemouth, Newcastle, all the way next. At this point, I'd bite your arm off for double algebra.
Yeah, I think you're going to be okay, though, when it comes down to it, because the other teams around you are going to get point deductions as well, and you're gonna stay up to live another year of this nightmare.
I want to get a mug that says Lawrence Rabinowitz, Super Silk.
Yeah.
He's our MVP.
Is he also representing the Wonka experience in Glasgow? I think that would be a... oh, no, under Scottish law, he's probably not allowed to go north
By
of the
the way,
border.
I genuinely think it's probably more joyful just taking your kids, having them cry quickly at the Wonka experience than making them cumulatively watch the journey of an Everton season. But you guys be the judge.
Okay, before we go, a quick reminder about everything we've got happening at Men in Blazers this week, powered by Michelob Ultra Superior Light Beer. It starts tomorrow with a brand new episode of European Nights with Rory Smith. Do it live Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube page. Do it live, a new episode of The Women's Game with Sam Mewis Thursday and WGFOP on Friday. And so much happening right now. But you also have those interviews with Rash Beans and Robbo forthcoming. The MIB pet hamster needing a Declan Rice-esque heat map to keep the wheel spinning and the lights on his little trundling wheel. Can you finish us off with a toast, Rogelio?
What raise a final toast, this Michelob Ultra of joy to AFC Wimbledon, the League Two side, who on Saturday faced up to MK Dons, the controversial team who were originally Wimbledon FC but relocated north in 2002. Something, yes, I know it happens all the time in American sports, but it never happens in English football that teams move. And so when AFC Wimbledon was set up by fans in response, started from 0 in the Combined Counties League, English football's 9th tier, rose through the divisions, and my friend, John Green, the great novelist of traumatic sadness and pain, he became involved with the club. He sponsored their shorts. And they eventually reached the Football League Wrexham style in 2011 to this game, which Wimbledon players, fired up by the fans, they're finally facing, the enemy, just the opposite of everything that they are. They are light. MK Dons are darkness. The players brought into the meaning of the game. They dominated totally without scoring until the 94th minute when the ball found the feet of 27-year-old Irishman Ronan Curtis and he banged home the winner. Cue just joyful scenes of wonder that were life-affirming, magnificent. The noise of the goal, you can find out on our social. It's what letting go of 21 years of hurt sounds like. John Green was actually at the game. I'm not going to lie. I teared up watching footage of him watching the spectacle and the Wimbledon fans around him just celebrating the winner. They didn't know what to do with their hands. And he tweeted post-game, our manager Johnny Jackson is in tears. Our manager who came to the pub after the game. Our manager who took selfies with fans for 2 hours. Our manager who sang with us until his voice broke. We are Wimbledon. Godspeed.
Oh, one of those rare moments in football where no one is getting called the C word, Rog. It's life affirming. Okay, you can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at Embassy Davies, at Rog Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at Embassy Davies, on Facebook with the Men in Blazers, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Men in Blazers, also at TikTok. Look for it at Men in Blazers, and you can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. We love and cherish getting your emails. Venderpunk, Rog.
War Pig.
Was that a Rabona?
I like snacks.
Balls win.
Take that, Gloria.
Balls lose.
To Tweed.
Abrigado, rock on, mate.
Kung Fu Fight in America. Love you, Davey.
Love you, Rog.
Love you, other C words like courage. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos and courage.